Welcome to Stories Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Weldin. Today's story is called The Hare's Tug of War, an adaptation of a Central African fable written for you by Daniel Hinds. Thanks! Enjoy the episode! The Hare's Tug of War. Once upon a time, in the untamed wilds of Africa, there was a hungry little hare. She was willing to eat most anything, but being so small, the bigger animals would bully her around. She'd no sooner start nibbling at a sweet, ripe berry than she'd be chased off, and today was no different. She had just settled into a nice patch of dark, juicy clusters when there came a terrible trumpeting.
"Ho there, little hare!"
bellowed Ms. Elephant. She was the biggest bully of them all, and her appetite was endless.
"What do you think you're doing eating my favorite berries?"
"I just wanted a few," the little hare cried.
"Sorry, but I can't spare them,"
Ms. Elephant replied, and then she cleared the whole bush with a great wiggle snuff of her mighty trunk. It was so strong it knocked the poor little hare into the dirt and got dust all in her floppy ears.
"Run along now, you fuzzy runt. These berries are for the big girls."
Muttering and hungry, the little hare hopped away from the berries. "Maybe I'll have better luck by the river," she said. The current was sluggish and brown, but lots of bright, tasty flowers grew on the banks. The little rabbit found a delicious-looking patch and started to eat. No sooner had she nibbled her first shoot, though, than a great toothy head burst out of the water.
"Wah!"
it roared. "Sweet jumping whiskers!" the little rabbit exclaimed. The toothy head was followed by a great gray waddling body. It was Mr. Hippo, and he looked hungry enough to stomp.
"Move on, little hare," he grumbled. "These are my tasty greens, strictly for big boys like me."
He bulled in close, his cavernous mouth swallowing the whole flower patch in one bite. It was so aggressive it knocked into the little hare and tumbled her into the mud of the riverbank. "Hey, come on, was that really necessary?"
"Run along, little squirt. Little hoppers like you don't belong near the water."
Shivering and miserable, the little rabbit hopped back home to her burrow. It was a cozy little home in the tall, swaying grass, but that only meant her rumbly stomach echoed all around her. The sound of it seemed to fill her floppy ears and drive her mad. "That's it!" she said to herself when she couldn't take it anymore. "I may not be big, but I'm clever, and I'm done being pushed around." She stayed up all through the night planning and slept well past sunrise. But no sooner had she blinked open her pretty little eyes than she was off, hopping madly across the sun-baked African morning. "Hey, Miss Elephant!" she shouted after finally tracking down the big and burly beast. "Yeah, down here." Ms. Elephant stripped another bush of its berries. Her trunk curled to drop them into her mouth, itself bigger than the little hare's entire burrow.
"Oh, it's the fuzzy little runt,"
she said, rolling her wide hazel eyes.
"I thought I told you the berries are for big girls only."
"You did."
"Then why are you here? Get lost already."
"I'm here because I'm sick of you pushing me around," the little hare said, standing kinda sorta tall on her back legs. "Maybe I look small, but I'm just as strong as you are."
"Just as strong as me?"
Ms. Elephant burst into trumpeting laughter.
"Oh, do you need some help, maybe? Did you hit your little head?"
"My head's just fine, thank you, and I can prove I'm just as strong." She hopped back a bit and lifted a heavy coil of vine. "You take one end of this vine, and I'll take the other through the woods so we have some space. When you feel me start pulling, You pull back.
You want to play tug of war with me? Oh!
She erupted into another fit of brassy, trumpeting laughter.
You can't be serious.
I am serious, the little hare said, and she said it seriously. If you win, I'll never bother you again. But if I can prove I'm just as strong, then I get to eat the berries too. No more keeping me out.
All right, Fluffball,
Ms. Elephant said, and she picked up the vine in her trunk.
Run along and get pulling. I can't wait around all day.
Just a minute, the little hare said. Then, picking up the other end of the vine, she hopped off towards the river. Hey, Mr. Hippo! She shouted at the muddy waters. Get your big back, tiny tail self on out here right now! A toothy head crashed up from the water, spraying mud and pebbles.
Blah!
He roared. His big body slammed down onto the riverbank, so close that the little hare felt the musky breeze. She didn't flinch, though. She knew she had to seem fearless.
Who are you calling big back, tiny tail?
Mr. Hippo grumbled.
I'll have you know my tail is considered quite lovely among hippos. Besides, your rear end looks like a cotton ball, so who are you to talk?
I'm sick of you pushing me around on the riverbank, she said, and she threw down the vine she was carrying. You say these river flowers are only for big boys. Well, I may look small, but I'm just as strong as you. I challenge you to a game of tug of war. Mr. Hippo started laughing, and it sounded like he was gargling boulders. The little hare shouted to be heard over the terrible racket. I challenge you to a tug of war. If you win, I'll never bother you again. But if I can prove I'm strong, you have to share the riverbank.
You prove you're strong? You won't last a second against a big boy, and I'm the biggest boy there is.
Then take the bet.
Fine, I do,
Mr. Hippo said, and he grabbed the end of the vine. Wait just a second for me to get to the other end. When I pull, then it's time to start. Mr. Hippo replied with the vine in his toothy mouth.
Got it. Hurry up.
The little hare ran back into the brush, hopping along the vine she had laid. After a minute, she found the knot she had tied in the middle. One end snaked back to the river, the other deeper into the wilds. One end held by Mr. Hippo, the other in the trunk of Ms. Elephant. Of course, they each thought it was the little hare they were pulling against, and the brush was so thick there was no chance they'd see otherwise. With a sly smile, the little hare tugged on the vine and then took a step back. At the same instant, the two big beasts began to pull. The vine snapped taut and hummed with tension. Both Mr. Hippo and Ms. Elephant nearly fainted in surprise when the little hare put up such a fight. But they wouldn't let themselves lose to a little thing like her. Get ready, get set, we're gonna have a big tug of war. You think you're tough, you think you'll win this bet, you don't know what I got in store. Tug, tug, I see you feeling smug, you ain't seen nothing yet. I may be small, I may be fluffy. Hippos are big, elephants are snuffy. Rabbits are smart, and we're all hungry. Now we'll have a big tug of war. Pull harder, do your best. Show us you're the jungle's most strong. You think I'm weak, you think I'm some little pest. Well, baby, you were wrong. Wait and see, you underestimated me. You ain't seen nothing yet. Look at me, my plan works beautifully. Now I won the big tug of war. With a whip, crack, twang, the vine popped apart right in the middle. Ms. Elephant and Mr. Hippo both stumbled back and fell onto their giant rear ends. The little hare ran to one and then the other, tail bobbing, and gave them her biggest smile. See? The rope broke before you could move me. I am just as strong, just as mighty, and just as hungry as you. So now, will you let me eat in peace? In the end, Mr. Hippo and Ms. Elephant apologized to the little hare and admitted she was very strong indeed. And from that day forward, they always treated her as an equal and saved her one of the best spots to eat. This was surprising to all the other little critters in the wilds, but when they asked her how she had earned a spot among the giants, she would just give a sly smile. She knew she was a giant too, a giant brain, which, in the end, turned out to be just as good. The end. Thanks for listening.